Hello, you all. I'm Diana Brienne, Fearfighting. You know, I talk a lot about fears, and I talk a lot about fear fighting. I consider myself a fear fighter. Does that mean that I don't have fears? Of course I do. Now, there are healthy fears. Healthy fears like a bear running through the woods coming at you. You want to get out of the way. That's a healthy fear. You're fearful of something that could harm you. And yet, most fears are not like that. Most fears are unhealthy ones. Most fears are fears that are out of control. They're irrational fears. The fears that hold us back, as I've said before, are usually fears that have a little bit of merit to them, a little bit of possibility in them. And those fears are usually the ones that hold us back. The big fears, the fears that we can do nothing about, often we have to just go right through those fears. We don't have a choice. I mean, if someone is having a health crisis and they have to have medical intervention, sometimes they don't have a choice but to go through the medical intervention, no matter how scared they are. But it's in those other fears, those remote fears, those like, well, what if this happens, what if that happens? Those are the fears that usually stop us from our best lives, from our dreams, from our goals, from our visions, from our solutions. And so we've got to keep that in mind. We have to be prepared as we embark and go towards a fear that has an element of possibility in it. We've got to be smart about it. If there's no reward on the other side, then we don't need to even approach it, hopefully. And if there is a reward on the other side of it, then we need to calculate and be thoughtful as to how we're going to go through that fear. But most fears, and most fears, I don't know, are irrational. People just go through a period of like, they allow the idea of like, oh, what are people going to say if I do this? What if I move out into a different town? A lot of people are going to be upset with me, or if I switch jobs or whatever. And so that stops people from their best life as well, because they're so worried about things that other people may say or do. And a lot of those fears never even come about. They're kind of irrational fears. So we've also got to take a look at those. I believe in being a fear fighter, but only with fears that we have to go through to get to where we want to go. And so, yes, I have approached fears in my life, things or challenges or goals or visions. One in particular, I remember I lived in Palm Springs and I wanted to move to Newport Beach. And I really, at that time, I was very young, didn't have a lot of money to open up a big expensive apartment, and all the apartments in Newport Beach were expensive, California, at that time, and still are. And but I went anyhow, and I calculated with what money I had. I found a roommate situation which did not turn out so good in the beginning. I had to find another roommate situation, and that turned out wonderful. And then I began to build my life, but I faced my fears of leaving one place and moving to another. And so it was scary for me. So I could have stayed there forever, which is a wonderful place, but that wasn't part of my destiny, and my destiny was calling, and I knew that, and I needed to make the change for something better in my life. And so I faced my fear, and I went through that. So anyhow, I am used to facing fears, and I don't like it any more than anyone else, and yet sometimes I know that there is a reward, a blessing on the other side of it. From my house to yours. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.